good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Michelle Spears. I'm here to give you a word on tonight. And we will be back in Bible study a few days from now. So we're going to talk about Jacob wrestled with God, but God break him to make God will break us to make us. And that's what he had did with Joseph. Jacob. You know. So today's lesson, while Jacob was on his way to meet Esau, he started wrestling with a supernatural being. He didn't know who he was wrestling with at first. All he know that he was wrestling with someone that's supernatural being who has supernatural power. So Jacob prepared to meet Esau, but he but afraid and prayed to send a gift ahead of him. So him and Esau, they've been separated for like 20 years. Because Jacob had stole his blessing. His mama told him, "You go ahead on by my brother's house." So then now he done flee from his uncle house. And the uncle is after him. So he fleeing away to get on his own. And now 20 years later, he wants to meet Esau. But in the process of meeting Esau, he take a nap. And then when he wake up, he wrestling with someone. So now Jacob has sent everyone away and left alone, and a supernatural being wrestling with him all the way to daybreak. So now he wrestling with someone that's supernatural. From all the way to daybreak. So when the man saw that he could not overtake him, he touched the socket of Jacob here. Cause see, Jacob wrestling with God. He don't know he wrestling with God at first. He gonna be wrestling with God, and he ain't gonna let him go. He's not gonna let him go at all. He gonna keep on holding on to this and to God and keep wrestling all the way to daybreak. Because when he had a dream that he saw a ladder down. That was the day God had given him a mission to do because he a part of God's plan. He has not done it. So God hunt him down. And he saw wrestling. God like, I'm gonna break you to make you do what I created you to do. Because he was created to be a part, the third link of God's plan. So that so God put his hip out of socket because he just was just holding on, just constant, just keep on wrestling. So now we see that God had hunt Jacob down and start wrestling with him because until daybreak. So God will break us to make us. And just like, that's just like he done with me, molding me into a person that he had created to do his plan. And that's how he'll do. You sometimes you'll get broken down into pieces, but that's all God plans to make you strong and make you the person that he wants you to do to pursue his purpose. So that's what he had to do with Jacob. He had to break Jacob. Breaking. Sometimes you got to be broken into pieces sometimes to be the person that God wants you to be. That's how he had to do Jacob, and sometimes God got to break us to make us, the person that he wants us to do, to pursue that purpose that he had planned out for us to do. So God will break us to make us. Jacob had always been a wanderer, so he flee his home from Beersheba to escape his brothers, the wealth and find a wife, Haran. Now on his journey, he was afraid to meet Esau. He already was afraid to meet Esau. He done stole Esau blessing. So now he got all kind of gifts for Esau. The guilt gift. He was guilty. So he buying him all kind of, getting him all kind of gift, thinking they're gonna, have him to forget. So he meet Esau, but encounters. Now he on his way to meet Esau. He ain't even meet Esau yet, but on the encounter of with God in the form of a man, sought out Jacob. Now God wanted to make Jacob into a different person, so he took action. God will take action. He molded me in a person that he want me to be. God will take action. If you don't get started on working on yourself, God will help you. He will take action. Now he initiated a wrestling match, that lasted from daybreak all the way to dawn. You know, Jacob was willing and would not allow him to give up. You know, Jacob didn't want to give up. And he didn't want God to give up. He just kept on holding on, just kept on wrestling, until daybreak. So the man broke Jacob, touching his hip so that he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. So many people might become bitter and turn away from God. Now some people, you break, God do all kinds of stuff to you, uh, Jacob still didn't get better. Jacob still didn't get mad. You know, God for breaking him. Jacob is a good man. God broke him to make him. Sometimes God will break us to make us to the person that He wants us to be today. So we either can get mad and we can get bitter, or we can cling to God. Because God, our life and our future is in upon God's hand. So we either can get mad and bitter, or we can cling to God. It's the choice that we have to make. But you not clinging to God is a wrong choice to make. So then the man had said, the ransom for daybreak. So the man said, let me go. Let me go. For it is daybreak. He had to let Jacob know it is daybreak. So Jacob replied, I will not let you go until you bless me. Now this a person that fighting for daybreak. This a person that God already touched his socket of his hip. But he's still holding on. And he said, no, I will not let you go until you bless me. And that's how a lot of us have to be. I know I'm still holding on. I'm still holding on. I'm still clinging to God. You got to cling to God. Like, you cannot cling to nobody else. You got to cling to God, and you got to not let Him go until He bless you. Jacob said, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. But we see that Jacob did the opposite. He clinged to God. He's saying, I will not let you go until you bless me. So now God can show tough love. God will always show tough love. And sometimes God will allow us to feel the pain. I'm a witness. God will allow you to, David wrote songs. He wrote songs about God allowed him to see trouble, but he still loved the God. Allow us to feel pain. You'll feel that pain, because Jesus was on that cross. Jesus felt so much pain, so much pain before he left this earth. So that's why God will allow us to feel that pain. I'm feeling so much pain and struggle in my stomach. He will allow you. He will show that tough love. So Jacob did. He allowed us to feel the pain, just like Joe did also. But sometimes God break us to make us better. Because he was right there when Joe was going through that pain and suffering too. Sometimes you might feel like you're in that wilderness, and then you're going through so much pain, you're going through so much struggle, and the first thing come out our mind, our mind and our mouth, like, what is God? Like, you're talking, you're praying to God, and you're like, where He at? When you in that wilderness, sometimes God will get quiet, but guess what? He always right there. You're always right there. He know when the right time to step in. Now He may break our heart, so we'll make room for him now. Because a lot of times, that just like Jacob, God had given him a mission to do. He did not do it. He just living his life and got all old and stuff. No matter how old he got, he still was wrestling with God and refused to let go. So he may break us so we can discover, you know, his will for us. I know I did. I discovered so much of my purpose in my pain and suffering. You discover everything in pain, and you won't believe it. How you discover so much stuff in pain and suffering. And that's a time God get quiet, but He'll let you go so far, but then He will step in at the right time. So He may break our physical strength. You know, so we can discover that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. Let me say that again. He may break our physical strength, so we can discover that God's strength is perfect in our weakness. Because you see, God works better in our weakness. We might have a life is all perfect and everything else. God not going to step in. God will step in when you is broken. God will step in when you is broken into pieces. When you don't know what direction to go at. When you lost. When everything is falling apart. You don't know what direction you're going. That's when God will step in. He will step in when you're broken. Because God will break us to make us. So He will allow us to be in that broken pieces. And then God will step in. God will give you peace in that storm. God will restore you and everything else. So we learn from Jacob when God shows tough love, is to cling to God, and pray. Never let go, unless you bless me. You got to keep on holding on. Keep on holding on. You know, if everything is falling apart, you're doing everything that you can and nothing still not going right. You got to keep on holding on. Keep on clinging to God like Jacob did until you bless me. I don't care Jacob was broken. His side was all broken. I'm broken into pieces. God will step in when you're I'm broken, but He will step in when you really, really is broken into pieces. That's how He make you. He will break you, have you broken until He make you the person that He wants you to be. So the man asked him, he said he clinged on to this man so tight. He said, I'm not going to let go till you bless him. He said, okay, but what's your name? So Jacob told him his name. Then Jacob turned around, what's your name? So he know his name is no longer to be Jacob. His name will be Israel. So he clinged on to God like that. God said, I'm going to change your name. So because you have struggled, with God and with human and have overcome, He overcome. He overcome. You're fighting and you wrestling with God. And a lot of time we catch ourselves doing that. I'm talking to myself too. We catch ourselves doing that. God is in our life. God got a paper for us. Sometimes we can be like the Israelites, and Jacob, just keep on wrestling with God. Instead of us letting God have His way, we want to wrestle with God. Keep on wrestling with God instead of standing still and let God have His way. So Jacob asked, what is your name? So the man said, why are you asking me my name? So then he blessed him. God bless him. God bless Jacob in all kind of ways. Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because he saw God face to face. He saw a man face to face, wrestling with a man, holding and clinging to a man, refused to let go. So he saw this man here face to face, and yet his life was spared. God spared his life. He was the third link of God plan, so God wasn't going to kill him. God just wanted to break him a little bit because God had told him to do something and he did not do it. And now Jacob's saying he wrestled with God. but God spared his life. It was a human being. We know that God could have took his life. God could have took his life, but God up there wrestling back with him. He said he saw him face to face. So after wrestling, a match, with over Jacob left limping because of his hip. Jacob wrestled with what he thought was a man, but turned out to be God. Now he realized it was God in the wrestling match. That's why he clinged on and said, I'm not gonna let you go until you bless me. And he received a blessing, and his name got changed. So this blessing was God that had given his grandfather before him. You know, Jacob was God's third link for his purpose, and so God had to break him to make him into the person that God wanted him to be, to finish his purpose. See, when God got a purpose on your life, and you're not quite there yet, God will break you into pieces. We don't know how that make you a better person, but it does. I changed in many ways. Broken in all kind of ways, and kept on crying for God to step in. God will step in when you totally broken into pieces, where you just can't go no more. You just lost, you confused, you don't know what direction you go to. You just crying all the time because you're just so broken. That's when God will step in. In your brokenness, you will find your purpose. I found multiple purpose in my brokenness. We see that Jacob didn't get mad, but cling to God and refused to let go. God bless him, and God also changed his name. So we see God had to break Jacob to make him, and he still didn't do it. So God had to turn it over to his son Joseph, and Joseph was the first one to get God plan started. Because Jacob let himself got so old, and he still didn't pursue it. So that's why he had the children. That's why he had Joseph. He gave Joseph to Jacob and to his wife. Bathsheba. He gave Joseph to her. Because Jacob got so old. And God wrestled with him. He still didn't do it. But God had another plan. A lot of time when God creates you, He creates you for a reason. He created Joseph for a reason. He put that gift in Joseph. Joseph was able to interpret dreams and stuff like that. When his brothers didn't even like when him to keep on telling them about the dream. He was a little child. He didn't know what all he know. He had a wonderful dream, and he wanted to tell someone. So go no matter how young you is, God will put a gift in you when He wants you to pursue His purpose. So that's all the story I have for you on tonight. That Jacob had wrestled with God, and God had to break him to make him, break him. Now, God did made a better man out of Jacob, because you remember Jacob stole his brother birthright, his blessing and everything. He was terrible, but by God had been in his life, Jacob hadn't changed. He hadn't changed. God did broke him to make him the better man that he was at the end of his life. He was a better man. But he just wasn't able to pursue his purpose, and God had to turn it over to his son. So that's all the word I have for you on today. And a lot of times God will show tough love. A lot of time, we broken. And we in that wilderness. When we asking God, where you at? Come pull me out. But God will let you stay in that wilderness for a while. Look what He did to Israelites, from them complaining and stuff like that. Their journey was supposed to have been 3 days. It wound up 40 days. God kept them in their wilderness and had them going around in a circle, around in a circle. You had to break them. break them into pieces until they get it right. And when they finally start getting it right, then God led them to their promised land. You know, but He had them running around. God will have you running around into a circle until you get it right. Because God is a perfect God. You know, when He got a purpose on your life, He will keep you in that wilderness until you get it right. You know. Now we see that Jacob did change. But he still wasn't able to fulfill God's promise. He had to turn it over to his son Joseph. So that's all the word I have for you on today. Y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all on the next video.